The truth of the matter is, when we see things in a group, you can walk away from that theater feeling as though we're all a lot more similar than we realize.
Mm-hmm.
Because the chances are high and likely that everyone's going to laugh at the same moments, cry at the same moments, get angry at the same moments, sit at the edge of their seat at the same moments. And so I think our world, post-COVID especially, but in general, is just lacking these communal experiences where we see each other and our similarities first.
Nerdy.
Nostalgic.
Madly inappropriate.
This
is Nerdhat.
Nerdhat, I'm Ruth late. Why am I a robot?
Hey Nerdheaders, Richard here. So this past week, I had the privilege of sitting down for a conversation with Michael Morin, who is the new executive director of the RiverRun International Film Festival. That is set to begin on April 17th. By the way, it runs through the 25th. That's the in-person festival. Virtual screenings will follow that, I think, for at least another week. You can get your tickets now, riverrunfilm.com. Go check it out. I want to give a big thank you to the Arts Council of Winston-Salem and Forsyth County, who graciously allowed me to use the Haynes Brands Theater for my interview with Michael. They also play a key role in bringing the RiverRun Festival to life each year, 2026 being no exception. All right, Nerdheaders, now on to my interview with Michael Morin. I hope you enjoy listening as much as I did. Welcome to the Nerdhat podcast.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Oh, absolutely. Thanks for coming on.
Yeah.
We're excited to be involved with RiverRun again this year.
Yeah.
So this is kind of our first foray into that world this year.
Oh, exciting.
Last year's, we were invited by Tiffany Jones, actually.
Yeah, Tiffany.
To come in, kind of be a part of the press corps. We got to go to screenings.
Great.
Got to meet some of the filmmakers and interview some of them. So it was just really amazing experience. And
yeah,
I so enjoyed the communal aspect of it's just really just seeing these passion projects, but then enjoying it with other people and getting to meet some of the people that made it. So that was just really cool.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's one of the best things about a film festival is filmmaking in the industry can be at times cynical, especially once you get to a certain point as a filmmaker or like box off, when you're making popcorn movies and stuff like that. But at a film festival, what's great is you tend to be getting people early in their career that are still extremely bright-eyed and passionate about the art they're creating, and they are people that are throwing everything they have into these projects, and some of them are going to move on to be the next Christopher Nolan, Lena Dunham, whoever it is. And so you get to see that, and it's such a special experience because you get to also share their experience of sharing their art with an audience for the first time, or, maybe not always the first time, but like it's very rare these days that people are actually getting their films in theaters and distributed. So especially since the pandemic, so much is direct to streaming or, video on demand. So the communal experience of watching something in a theater with people, a part of the people continuing to do that are film festivals. There are art houses all over the world that are doing it as well. But, it's hard for some of those places to keep their doors open. And so...
Oh, I know you probably heard the stories like Aperture here in town, came close to going out of business just this past year, and the community kind of rallied around and has kept it going.
Well, you think about...
it's hard.
It happened a couple weeks ago when I was here, or maybe it was more than that, but, we woke up one morning and there was news that Red Cinema's closed in Greensboro, which is
That was like the very first, at least the first one I became aware of that. Independent cinema here.
Yeah.
Wow, that's sad. I had not heard that.
Yeah, so it was just one morning. I mean, I don't even know the process of how they found out, but I know that we had already scheduled our screenings there because that's where we do our Greensboro screenings. Yeah. So it's just heartbreaking. We were very fortunate that we had great partners in the Carolina Theater who put on a lot of programming throughout the year and for film, more like retrospective type stuff. But they're, allowing us to do what screenings we were going to do in Greensboro at the Carolina Theater now instead. But it's sad, because Red Cinemas, people are very fond of it. And so it kind of all goes back to like the festival experience is just becoming more unique. Even the theater experience is becoming more unique for people to be a part of on a regular basis. I'm guilty of it myself. I don't know that I get to the movies in a theater because I have a life and 2 children, and they're young, and it's the same story for everyone. So, and I think that's also part of where the industry is struggling to find that it's not all the industry's fault. There's like a balance when there's a recession or financial means for people is hard. You're not meeting your audience where they're at, sometimes, and finding a way to make cinema or going to the theaters like an experience, and not just on the screen, like as in, we spent $500 million on this, and Iron Man does a backflip. Like it's like providing the filmmaker in attendance or whatever it is. Like there's all different ways people are doing. I saw a great film when I was working at Cucaloris in the fall, which was called, I'll give him a shout out, German Soul, and it was a documentary about the origins of soul food from North Carolina and the Carolinas. And it was this mixed media thing where it was almost like a presentation mixed with a documentary film, live music by Grammy-winning musicians.
Oh, wow.
And then because it was about soul food, there were 2 points in the presentation of the program where the soul food was served to the audience. And it was all part of the experience. And that's exciting. There's like all new ways that people are trying to reinvent this medium that's now reaching, 100 years, of existence. Or maybe it has already. I'm bad with my numbers and facts.
Yeah, I don't know in terms of Hollywood productions. I mean, I know the movie camera, what was in the late 1900s. Well, no.
Yeah,
it's like 19th century, but 1800s, right? I get mixed up. But I know. But in terms of when the industry started getting off the ground, I think it was around maybe around 100 years, maybe a little bit over.
Yeah, somewhere in there. We're close, in there. Around there. Yeah. But, that's the thing is that, it's obvious they're going to change the way we do things.
What does it mean for something to be nerdy? When it comes to the realm of arts and entertainment, which is where we like to live with the Nerdhat podcast, what does it mean for something to be nerdy? Like nostalgia, that's easy to explain, right? It's something like for us as the host that reminds us of our childhood, or it might be something from our parents' childhood that they watched with us that reminds us of our relationship with our parents, things like that. That's pretty easy to explain. Mildly inappropriate humor, it might be a little hard to define, but that could be a wacky comedy, that could be just us having fun with whatever topic we're covering. But what does it mean for something to be nerdy? Does it have to be Marvel or DC in the comic realm, or you name your fantasy property? Does it have to fit within those realms, or could it be the latest independent drama that you just are so excited about? Maybe it's a documentary that you watched that has got you excited to get out and make a difference in the world. Who knows? Does it bring out your inner nerd? Does it make you want to share it with other people? Does it inspire you to go and create something similar yourself? That, to me, is really what it means to be nerdy. So, you've been listening for the better part of 4 years to what Laura, myself, and Will, and our guests pull out of our nerd hats. We want to know what's in yours. So, picking back up on May 18th, we're going to be going back to the, hey, let's shake the hat up and pull a random topic out format. So, we need some contributions to the hat. We need to know what you would like us to cover. And maybe you'd be interested in coming on and talking about it with us. Either way, we'd love to know what your ideas are for topics to cover. So, hit us up on Patreon, on Instagram, on Facebook, comments on Spotify, on our website. Let us know what you would like us to cover. What's in your Nerdhat? What was some of your entry into film, like growing up? Was there a movie you remember that just really grabbed you and maybe made you feel like, I want to be involved in that, I want to make movies? Or did that happen more gradually for you? Like, I know
Yeah, I mean, so for me, I think it was like, my first love was music. It was just right out the gate, like that was really what I fell in love with. But when I was a real young child, one of those groups was like the Monkees, right?
Oh yeah.
And so like, you know, what people know, the Monkees are like the first boy band, kind of, whatever. But
we're the Monkees.
Yeah, but they're also, you know, it's like Neil Diamond wrote songs for them, but they were our TV show as well, and so it was like this combination of things. I wouldn't say that made me want to be a filmmaker, but it definitely, music played a big part in my journey as like somebody who experiences art, right? I became obsessive and a little over the top with like, you know, taking in music. And then I mean, I'll say I have a 35 millimeter print at home of it, but you know, the Muppet movie for me was like, I was a huge Muppets fanatic, and I know I've heard through the grapevine that this guy, Zach, who owns Marketplace, is Zach. Also a Muppet freak, but we haven't talked about it yet. But, you know, what I found with the Muppets is that it was this story, and as I got older, I began to appreciate it more and more. I mean, first off, Jim Henson's sense of humor for a children's creator, like, it couldn't be matched. But as I got older, it was that beautiful thing of, he was truly one of the pioneers in making programming that would appeal to children while also giving the parents and adults something to enjoy and laugh at. And so that was, like, for me, was like my the true first thing that I took notice and saw as like, this is different. I didn't know things could be this way. And then, you know, obviously I was a big kid of the 80s, you know, whether it's Spielberg's E.T. or Goonies and those kinds of things. But I think once I reached high school or middle school, I had already started with my parents' camera. You know, I was very fortunate to be privileged enough to have, at that time, especially as like the early 80s or mid 80s, to have access to an actual camera, a video camera, which at that time, I mean...
So one of those that you could load a full-size VHS in?
Oh, yeah. It was just like that big booming thing, right? And, you know, doing all your edits in tape because you didn't know that there was a thing called an editing machine.
Oh, yeah.
And even I first learned to edit when I was in junior college on a reel-to-reel tape. So you put 2 tapes in and then a third that you're recording onto. And to cut with, like, you're basically hitting play and record at the same time, pausing and then switching where the feed was coming. If you learn on an editing machine like that, it's really good for your brain it helps you understand. Yeah. But man, what a different time it was. But yeah, so like as I got older, you know, I started venturing into more obscure things, and I was lucky because I think I was probably 12, 13 years old when movies like Pulp Fiction were coming out, like that mecca of like Miramax independent film where everything was like blowing everyone's mind.
Good Will Hunting.
Yeah, Good Will Hunting.
One of my favorites, from the 90s.
I mean, Gus Van Sant is one of my all-time favorites. And I probably would lean more towards Gus Van Sant and like Paul Thomas Anderson. Their inherent style of filmmaking. I like stories about humans. I don't really care as much about anything flashy, but I also love Die Hard, right? But the truth is the best action movies are all character studies in the first place, right? And I also really believe in the idea that all of it should be like, there's a time and a place for a message-focused film, like documentaries are doing a lot of heavy lifting for society these days. But the truth is, I think there's a big portion of us in the world that life is challenging. Life is hard. You want to be able to escape that a little bit.
Yeah.
And you know, not just ignore, but like just to have some kind of pleasure and enjoyment. And I think, I don't know, this year's been a really great year from film, and I feel like some stuff coming out over the last year, like whether it's Sinners and even One Battle After Another, which is not P.T. Anderson's normal soiree into filmmaking, you know, but making things that are human pieces that have a message but are enjoyable. Like, I think Ryan Coogler is just maybe one of the greatest filmmakers living today, just based on his ability to make something that is purely entertainment while also delivering such a powerful message behind it. And so I think your question was, how'd you get started? I mean, I know
for some there's like a moment where, and then for others,
it was kind of a gradual thing. I mean, honestly, it was more about, I fell in love more with the creation aspect of it than anything else. And it wasn't until later in the early 90s, as I got older, that I realized that I could just make, I didn't have access to, but I could just make things if I wanted to, right? Like, a lot of the films coming out in that era were like, the first time you see Reservoir Dogs, you're like, oh, they're just all talking, you know? And so just starting to understand that was possible, and that stories were so much more about just the human experience as a teenager. Yeah, and that was, I think, you know, if I had to pick a filmmaker that made me want to make movies, it'd have to be probably Paul Thomas Anderson.
Okay.
I saw Boogie Nights. I then went back and found Heart 8, his Sundance film, and I was like, this is bizarre. I love it. And, you know, anyways. But, yeah, so that's what I'd have to say. And, yeah, from there, I just, like, any chance I had or access I had, and I was growing up like adjacent to the industry, so I was in.
So were you in L.A. in that area growing up? Or?
So I grew up till I was like 12 in Northern California, very distant from it.
Like Sacramento area?
You know, more like Bay Area, like outside Berkeley.
Yeah.
And I was very much a Northern California, Bay Area kid. I was still obsessed with like baseball and collecting baseball cards, and the Oakland A's were great then, and Bash Brothers, Jose Canseco, Mark McGuire. And then my parents moved us to Southern California, and yeah, it was just a totally different thing. But we moved to Huntington Beach, which was its own very specific part of Southern California, Orange County. I don't know if you know much about it, but, you know.
I've heard bits and pieces over the years, but I'm not super familiar.
It's like its history is based, obviously, surfing. A lot of punk rock comes out of there.
Oh, okay.
But also a lot of right-wing conservatism and some other awful, like...
Very interesting.
Yeah. Racist groups that come from that area. Okay. And so, for me, as a new kid in town, I just completely gravitated to just... Oh, I guess I'm a punk now. And, you know, that was between taking the 3 hours a day class after school to film a public access TV show that played once a month, and, you know, do all kinds of weird stuff and have access to all this equipment. I did that. And then on the weekends, I was booking punk shows at my rec center or at my friend's backyard and playing in bands. And I think I went to school somewhere in there, but like...
I was going to ask, did film school happen at all in that? Was it more just a long learning on the job? I mean, I'm sure some of both, but like, so you did...
Yeah, I mean,
I
mean, let's be honest. I don't, you know, at that time, unlike today, like I didn't have access to like YouTube tutorials, and information was only passed down through people telling you and teaching you. And so it was like I got most of my knowledge around film. Sure, I could have an opinion. Everybody does, and if you're intellectual, you can see what's happening and what people are doing in cinema. But I didn't go. I went to junior college because we couldn't afford to like do like the whole thing. It just didn't make
no,
sense.
it's not cheap.
Yeah. And so, but I also was very much, I never, I wasn't looking to spend 4 years like just studying the craft or those that came before me. I just wanted to get in there and make it.
Mm-hmm.
So I went to like a junior college in Orange County for a few years, and then I had to take, I took, I think, a year off to like work and save money. And I worked at some software engineering software firm where I did all their instructional videos, and I saved money. And then I ended up going to the Los Angeles Film School, which was fairly new at the time. But what I chose about that program was because from the first week of class, you were making something. You start Monday, on Friday, you had to deliver a film.
Nice.
And that's the
Hands-on right off the bat.
8 films, 8 weeks, the first 8 weeks.
Wow.
And it was, no professors were professional professors. They were all working industry professionals. That was the model. And yeah, I loved it. It was great. And I did that. And then I graduated, and all my friends got jobs as PAs or assistants or something like that. And I was like, see you later. I'm going on tour with bands. That's all I'm doing. And then, I did that for like 5 years, filming bands. I would go on tour. At that time, I was like going on tour, selling their merch, and then filming their shows and taking video and stuff like that.
Okay. Did you do some music videos during the time as well?
No, actually, I really didn't even, unfortunately.
Just the concert videos?
Yeah, I mean, at that time, the internet, it was early 2000s, so the internet was still not, the cameras too. It's like I was shooting on mini DV. I had the old Panasonic with the Leica lens, the 24p camera. Mm-hmm. And it was great. It looked beautiful. It's still, to this day, you look at that footage and it just looks so different than other video content. Nowadays, everyone's got that equivalent of a camera in your phone,
right? Yeah,
that goes right onto your, an easy cloud
cinematic mode, right?
Yeah, I can just drop it into any software. Before, you had to. All right, I have a 3-hour tape. I got to plug in my camera and then make sure I have enough storage to digitize this.
Right.
And half the time that files are getting corrupted and out of sync or something like that. And I was also in my early 20s and experimenting with life a lot, and being on the road wasn't the most stable environment for a 23-year-old. Mm-hmm. And so I still to this day have a very vast collection of video footage of a lot of bands that I toured with when I was younger, and someday that'll become something,
a
but
documentary maybe, or
something. But nice. It's a little varied, so you don't really know. But anyways, so that's, and then after a few years where I needed to straighten up, I guess is the nicest way to put it. Mm-hmm. The road had taken its toll. My old bandmate was working for David O. Russell. I started working part-time doing coverage for him and shooting and editing his 11-year-old son's home movies and stuff that he wanted to make, and where we'd dress up as characters. We did the Nutty Professor, and it was really fun. But very shortly after, I think it was 6 months in, my friend was like, all right, I'm going to Burning Man. Can you watch David's office for 2 weeks? Him and the other assistant went, another friend of mine. I came back, one of them quit while they were at Burning Man, and then the other one, we were going into pre-production on something at that time, proceeded to also not get fired shortly after. And before I knew it, we hadn't even started shooting this movie, and I was the only assistant left. And so, and then that lasted for almost 5 years or so.
Wow.
Yeah, and then.
So what all does that entail?
Oof.
I've seen those credits over the years.
Yeah.
But I haven't heard as many stories.
Yeah.
In terms of the level of involvement, I imagine it depends, probably depending on the director and what they need, or.
I think it depends. Yeah, I think it's definitely dependent on director. But when you really think about it, it depends on the person's bandwidth and what their projects they have on it. Some people are so prolific and they have just entire teams. But, David's not really one of those people.
He's doing one film at a time.
Yeah, but, during those windows when he wasn't, he was writing, and, getting to be a part of that experience over the years was the best education I could have had, the one thing David always gave, which was so valuable to me, was access. I got to be in the room and be a part of the conversations creatively, whether it's in the editing room or even in the room with the creative producers. And so it allowed me also the opportunity to like show that I had an opinion, right? It wasn't always the right one, but
just throw it out there.
Yeah, and also gave me the confidence to, when ideas of mine that kind of landed on and stuck. But also being an assistant, it can vary, right? I handled a lot of his personal life, finances outside of the scope of his accountants. Like I said, he had a teenage son that I helped, pick up from school and things of that nature. But my time there, I worked on set for a film called Nailed that didn't get finished for a long time, and then changed the title. He took his name off. It's called Accidental Love, with Jake Gyllenhaal, Catherine Keener, Jessica Biel, Paul Rubens, who I then became friends with after, which was crazy. And then
he wasn't doing a lot back then, I don't think.
No, it wasn't.
Film-wise.
No, he was still doing bit parts. Like he had just probably done Blow a few years earlier, maybe longer. But I was actually, funny enough, I was shot in South Carolina, so I spent 4 months there in a house with my old boss, and yeah, it was a wild experience, I'll tell you that. And then I worked for many years with David as he wrote and doing Silver Linings Playbook, because it was a property he'd had for many years. And
I know pre-production sometimes, especially if you can't find financing, that can just go on and on, right?
Yeah. Well, at the time also, I don't think a lot of people could see it as that movie as like something that would be a commercial hit. Right.
Like, but this is a small character-driven film.
Yeah.
Like, could this make enough money?
But I think, it was kind of a perfect 1-2 punch, because I think what The Fighter did is set up audiences to appreciate what he can do for a specific, very unique world, like what he did for the New England kind of rural Massachusetts, the way he captured it, right? And, I think that people saw that within The Fighter, they could see how all these other characters could also be a story of their own, right?
Yeah, it helps having Christian Bale and Amy Adams in it.
Right.
It helps.
Yeah, it doesn't hurt. And the Oscar nominations didn't hurt. And so, that was an amazing process to go through. Oscar season, all of that. And so then I left right before pre-production in Silver Linings. Well, it was an interesting time in my life, and I was like, I need to not work in film anymore, because I think if I'm going to work in film again, it has to be completely on my terms. And it'll be with the stuff I'm doing, with people that I know and care about, and with time and distance, obviously. I think if you'd asked me right after, I would have had a different thing to say, but I think anytime you are working that close capacity with somebody, where your office is their house, you're responsible for all aspects of their personal life and business life, especially, when that person is constantly working, you just start to become so comfortable with each other that, it's very easy to, end up like an old married couple who's fighting all the time. And so I think it had run its course, and it was time for me to move on, and I just knew that I couldn't just jump into being someone else's assistant.
Yeah.
Right?
You wanted to see a different side of the process or the industry.
You know what I mean? But and then, so it kind of, involuntarily, I ended up going back to my first love of music. A friend of mine was putting on punk shows, and it started where she invited me to some, because I hadn't been around for a while, because you're working for an A-list director and you don't do things socially anymore. And
a lot of hours.
So at first, to start, I was taking photos of her shows just for fun, and then we decided oh wow, still had a lot of people I was connected to in the music industry, friends, and then we started putting the shows on together, and we started a company. And for a while, I was booking shows, and then that parlayed into me tour managing some of the bands we were booking for a few years. And then, at a certain point, when I was home, I was working at venues. And then I started to run those venues at home, and I stopped tour managing, and I was just running nightclubs and, working a graveyard shift more or less. And
It allowed you to stay in one place.
Yeah, allowed me to stay in one place, and which is great because I met my wife. And,
okay.
Who, after a few years, was like, I don't like that you work till 5 a.m. and sleep until 3. And
I've done my share of third shift. Yeah.
Oh, it's brutal.
Body's not made for that.
And at that time, I kind of took a leap of faith and did without anything kind of lined up.
Around 4, we actually moved out to Utah. My parents moved out there for work.
You said that.
Yeah, which I noticed that Slamdance, which the festival you were involved in, was in Park City. Is that right? For a while.
Yeah, we were in Park City.
Is it Sundance that's in Park City, or
Okay, so in I don't know how many years. I think when they ended in Park City, because the Sundance is left now. They had their final year this year. Their contract with the city of Park City was up, and now they're going to Boulder, Colorado.
Okay.
That said, I think they were there for 40 years. A lot of us have a lot to thank Robert Redford, R.I.P., for creating this thing for independent film here in the U.S. That said, there was about 4 or 5 filmmakers in the early 90s that didn't get into Sundance, and they were like, well, fuck this. We're going to do our own thing. And I think the first year might have been at the University of Utah in Salt Lake, but it was these rebels or, whatever, disruptors, as they would call them now, and they just started showing movies. And year after year, there's more and more people, and it's crazy because the names that have come from there have gone. I think my last year with Slamdance, I think we could say in the past 7 years previously, there was 5 of the Best Picture winners were all from alumni of Slamdance.
They had either a short film or their first feature.
Exactly. Yeah. So because the way Slamdance is set up is that if you're submitting a film, the budget cannot be more than $1 million. Most of the time, it has first-time filmmakers, especially with features. They do have a breakout section for filmmakers who have made more than one, and short filmmakers can come back over year and year and after again. But it's kind of been like this home for people who are first starting out or making small budget things. But, we had the likes of Bong Joon-ho's first film or Christopher Nolan's Following that didn't get into anything. And it got into Slamdance, and look where we are today.
I still need to catch up with that. I've heard stories.
Oh my gosh. It's a great movie. For a first film, it's insane. And then, other people like, what's her name? Gina Prince Bythewaite. She did Love and Basketball. Lena Dunham's short was there before anything. The Safdie brothers, who did, Marty Supreme. The list can go on, whether it's the director of Wicked. The alumni list is remarkable. People like Steven Soderbergh, who did some documentaries there, who are a Sundance alum, really helped the festival. And then
just gives it some name recognition.
Yeah, and started
established
next level, and through the dedication to the founders, specifically, people like Peter Baxter and Paul Rackman. Peter Baxter is the current CEO and president, and Paul Rackman is one of the co-founders who still is active on the board. This festival has thrived for the last, I think this is the 32nd year this last year.
Just a little older than RiverRun.
Right
around there.
It's an interesting era because, there in the early 90s, it seems like a lot of festivals started. Even Cucaloris is around the same time frame as well. They may have even started the same year. But my wife, or then girlfriend at the time, was like, I don't want you staying out all night. And we took a leap of faith, and throughout my adult life, I had always worked freelance because that's just what you have to do living in Los Angeles.
Yeah.
And so most of my work was production coordinating, production managing, usually commercials or music videos, some film and television and producing. And someone I worked close with, actually my old roommate, who I knew through the music scene, she said, hey, Slamdance is looking for a festival producer, and it's kind of like the perfect fit for you. Would you be interested in something like that? And I was like, oh, yeah, maybe. I mean, it was a seasonal gig at the time. And I met Peter, who's just this lovely British man that's a transplant here in the States and filmmaker himself, just like the biggest heart you've ever met. And same with the team at the time. And I was just, like what I said before, if I ever went back to film in a real manner, it would be on my terms. And we just clicked, had the same DIY, do-it-yourself kind of punk attitude about how to create things, how to support community, how important community was. Slamdance's motto is by filmmakers, for filmmakers, and always putting the filmmaker first at the forefront of everything the festival does, which in my experience after working there for many years has always benefited the longevity and the festival itself. And yeah, I produced the festival for the first time. I think it was 2018 or 2019, because it's in January. So I started in 2018 and did the 2019 festival. And I think that was our 25th. It was some anniversary. And, at that time, the offices, and it still is, are based in Los Angeles, but for a festival in Park City. And so,
interesting.
Yeah,
Okay.
during my time there,
So you would go to Park City at a certain point and
yeah,
get
exactly.
things ready and
I would staff mostly in Utah with students from the film program at the University of Utah and other locals, and usually had to have a coordinator, boots on the ground to help with local permits and stuff of that nature. Because the permitting process in Park City during Sundance is, there's a booklet. It's like the road, what do they call it? The rules of the road is what they call it.
Got to get permission to park here, have people park here, or
that's what you got to do when you have
directing traffic.
Yeah, a place that typically would have, I think, a population of 10,000 or 5,000 people that 60,000
You're right. Yeah, just
descend on.
it.
Oh my gosh. But yeah, so I was lucky enough for 2 years 2019 and 2020 to do in-person festivals. It was amazing. And then we had we did our last festival before the pandemic, a month after or a month before. And once we went into the pandemic, it was I don't know. We couldn't do the festival, but it kind of opened up a great opportunity for me. That's when I became full-time, because we had so much to do to make the festival accessible and possible in an online format.
Yeah.
Which is
a pretty big transition.
Yeah, and
to try and had to happen fairly quickly too with the lockdowns and things. I don't know what Utah was like with the lockdowns, how strict they were, but
well, it was also for us what was responsible. If you remember, it's hard to remember that time frame, but what was going to be responsible for our filmmakers, for us, and everyone. And we just knew that doing something in person there was no, because it's dead of winter, there's no way, it's already a thing at that point, right? That you go to Sundance or Slamdance and you're coming home sick because you're sharing these hot baking rooms in the cold with hundreds of people that are just coughing and breathing and so it didn't seem like the best COVID-safe environment. But we've successfully launched a online festival that was profitable, more so than, not more so, but just almost as much as our actual festival. And then we tried to go back in person the following year, and we had plans up until a certain point. And then we heard about Omicron, and Peter and I at the time had talked at lengths about it. And we decided to pull the plug real early because we wanted to make sure that we were doing it before Sundance did. I think it was stronger for us, gave us more time to really make sure that the online version was better. During that time, we also started an amazing program called Unstoppable, which is a program that's dedicated to filmmakers with visible or non-visible disabilities. And we did it online, and it was great because it made it very accessible online. They could participate. And at this time, I also had moved to North Carolina during the pandemic in the Raleigh-Durham area. So I basically did Slamdance for many years from North Carolina. And then in 2023, I believe it was, we finally went back to in-person in Park City in 2024. And then 2024 was the last year in Park City. And then my last year was Slamdance, which was not this past January, but the January before. We moved the festival to LA.
Yeah, I saw that on the Salem Journal article. They had mentioned.
Yeah.
So I imagine that was a difficult transition.
Yes. I mean, it was
like finding a venue and.
Well, so it was interesting.
All new permits. And
all new everything.
With the new government.
Yeah, I mean, that was the thing. I think, in Park City, they'd been at the same place for many years when I came on, and so. Again, there was like a lot of just plug and play, like add what you can where you can, improve where you can, and I feel like I did pretty good. Our most successful years were under my leadership, and so I'm very proud of that work. And I also was able to bring Unstoppable, the disability program, to fruition in in-person environment, both in Park City, which is very not accessible. And to the University of Utah. And towards the end there, something that was really important for us across the board and always was accessibility, not just physical accessibility, but accessibility financially in film, right? Whether it's at a festival, like the belief that a film festival should be accessible to anyone, no matter how much money is in your wallet. Yeah. Same goes for accessible for filmmakers who have films in the festival. They shouldn't have to mortgage their house just to attend a life-changing opportunity for themselves. Yeah. And so for years we were talking about the idea of moving from Park City because the cost of renting even just an Airbnb there during the festival, I mean, you're looking at spending upwards of $20,000 for 4 days sometimes, depending on where you're. By the end, we weren't even staying half the time that close to Park City because it just didn't make sense. And so finding out that some of our filmmakers who were extremely talented were, maybe not able to attend because of the finances, or they were going into debt because they were coming out for 4 days. And we knew that we needed to be somewhere that was financially more accessible, and LA has had a hard time holding on to an actual festival for many years that of any value. AFI is there, but they're a university as well, so it's kind of a different beast. And so there's kind of a vacancy in LA, and
that's interesting.
Yeah,
it's a little sad almost, given
how
close it is to. I mean, what most people, I guess, would consider the hub. I know Atlanta has kind of become like a second hub over the years. That's true. And I know it's kind of transitioning to London now in some ways, from what I hear. But that is a little sad that they haven't had a good festival there.
Well, I think it's also just kind of, at least, because we thought about. I mean, the move didn't happen lightly. We not only did we have many conversations with our team, with our board, with our community. We reached out to our filmmakers, our programmers, our alumni, and asking what they thought and what they felt. Like if there was somewhere they thought we should go. And so it was really like, it wasn't just some one person's decision, which is what I admire kind of about Slamdance in many ways. But in LA, I mean, you could probably pull it up on the internet and find out, but there's probably 100 film festivals.
Okay, so
they all, none of them, but like
just very small, like kind of
niche or very targeted. Some are great and some are really special, but there's no name that you could. The closest I would say.
Yeah, I can't think of one myself. Like I mean, at least in terms of like a major film festival. you hear about the films like this first appeared at Cannes, or this
Right.
first appeared, and so I can't think of one myself. So
Well, there's there's a few, and I don't want to like make if they're
Yeah.
LA people
Yeah,
listening,
we don't wanna-
like
don't
Holly
wanna slam
Short,
them, but-
Holly
just-
Shorts, the Asian Pan Pacific Film Festival, and there's one that's not technically really there anymore, which I'm just devastated that it's called Outfest. It's historically one of the best, biggest queer festivals in North America, and they haven't had a home for years there. And so when we moved, we knew we had an uphill battle. Venues, I mean, though we were giving, a more accessible place for people to attend and filmmakers to come, because there's so many opportunities to stay places.
Yeah.
And half of our filmmakers were probably already residents there. So being able to drive it home at night was a big thing. But venue-wise, that was kind of the trade-off, is that the price tag was heftier on rentals and things of that nature. And, we were very lucky through some relationships of whether it's our executive director, Taylor Miller, who's one of my best friends. She's still there. Definitely, I say under my leadership, but it was a partnership between her and I taking the festival from Park City to Los Angeles. Our relationships with some of our the venues we ended up with is we historically at Slamdance, we always built our theaters. We never really screened in theaters. So we'd build them from scratch. We'd turn a ballroom in a hotel on Main Street, or the salt mines in Utah. But in LA, our first year, we were at Coyote Studios, which is sound stages.
Okay.
Turned 3 of those into movie theaters, put a tent in the parking lot. And this kind of goes back to, I think, a question you had, is that the reason a lot of these festivals maybe don't survive or thrive in Los Angeles is because it's so spread out.
Yeah.
That,
such a large area.
Yeah, and finding locations that can be near each other is hard. So you're separating the energy of your festival when you have screening in Santa Monica and then North Hollywood. Because maybe 10 miles or 5 miles, but in LA traffic, it's 3 hours away.
Yeah, right.
Right? And so you get people that are screening at the same festival who never cross paths. So we knew that moving to LA, we had to keep things close, even if it meant spending more on building a theater. And so we did that. And we chose West Hollywood, which is kind of central to all the areas in LA. We didn't favor any specific place, but industry's on the west side and in the valley. Most of the creatives lives on the east side, so the central location I think helped. And we put a majority of our screenings over a 4-day period within those 3 theaters at Coyote Studios. So it did become and feel like a real festival. So you came and you stayed. You didn't come for just to see a movie.
Yeah.
You came to see a few, or go to happy hour, or just hang out with people that you hadn't seen in years, or other filmmakers. And this allowed us to do that. That made it more of an experience that people were willing to come to. Also, a big part of our message is our festival passes are only $50.
Yeah, that's not bad.
Where,
Not bad at all.
and that's to see anything and get into anything. Where a lot of festivals like Sundance, you can spend $3,000 or more.
I bet.
And
If you wanna see,
it doesn't even
you want
guarantee
access
you.
to everything.
It
or
doesn't. You still
maybe
have
not.
to.
Maybe not all the forums, but
you still have to
different
then.
packages.
Yeah, get tickets to this. It's a
Wow,
whole.
Yeah, that would price me out.
Yeah, or it's just like there's so many people trying to get those few seats that it sometimes becomes a nightmare. So, anyway,
So
it was
so how did Nerdhatters? We would like to know what is in your nerd hats. For 4 years now, you've been listening to what's in my nerd hat, Laura's nerd hat, Will's nerd hat, Dan Johnson's nerd hat, Lars DeSenza's, you name it. You've heard a lot of stuff coming out of a lot of nerd hats. Now we want to know, what would you like us to cover? What is just aching to creep, crawl, leap live out of your nerd hat? let us know. You know how to do it, right? Drop us a DM, leave a comment, rating, review, like, subscribe. We'd like you to do those things too, but let us know what is in your Nerdhat. All right, it's time to get back to our regularly scheduled programming. Live long and prosper, nerds. How did your experiences there prepare you for what you'll be doing now with RiverRun, and then how did RiverRun come about? I heard a little bit at the launch party of the story of how they had a nationwide search, and did someone reach out to you? Did you apply?
So
how did all that come about?
So to try and keep it succinct, because I ramble. If you haven't noticed, I ramble. So I think, my time at Slamdance, I was very fortunate to work very closely with our president and CEO, Peter Baxter, during my entire tenure there. He's a good teacher and trusted in my ability to learn, even though I hadn't been a film festival producer before. He saw that I was very able and capable, and given that freedom to make it my own, the knowledge that he had and really a faith in me allowed me to also fall in love with the idea of film festivals and what they were. But I, also got to see firsthand what it takes in the top seat.
The director.
What does that look like? That is the person who is the face of the festival sometimes. Most of the time, it's the person who's the mentor to the staff, the person who's the problem solver, the person who has to make the hard decisions, person who can see 3 years or 5 years down the road because they're thinking that way, even while simultaneously making sure that this year is going to be great. And I was included in those conversations and that work at Slamdance in a way that I don't think a lot of organizations are open to including people. And so I'm very grateful for that. And I gained a wealth of knowledge that you wouldn't get unless you were sitting in the room with the director the entire time. And so, in that said, I got to see through that work how other festivals worked. The move really helped a lot too, because we really did a lot of research and analyzing why have all these festivals failed? What was the success? What would make us a success here? What has worked in different places? What makes Slamdance a success where we are? Why did we succeed when we moved to LA? And so thinking that way, and also getting one thing that Slamdance has, which is very unique, is over 200-something programmers every year. And they're all alumni, all filmmakers, people who have submitted and gone into the festival. And they return every year to do this because Slamdance gets over 10,000 film submissions and 5,000 screenplay submissions.
So these are the people that help to filter through that and pare down the list.
Exactly. So you also have access to this great community of filmmakers who are active in the industry as a resource to understanding, if these 200 people all are upset about this one thing, then there's a good chance that's the common thread. And having that resource it's kind of priceless as a film festival to have. And so, just being so deeply immersed in that community for such a long time, longer than any other position I've ever held, was great, because I come here and I feel like I understand what this festival needs, where its strengths are, where it could be improved, what should be highlighted, what should be focused on, and what should be brought in. That I say this festival, I mean RiverRun.
Yes.
But, after moving the festival to Los Angeles, as many organizations experienced with the transition in our government, there was some grant funding that was no longer available. Due to some of those things, my hours were cut, and then I was put back to seasonal. And I respect, because obviously as executive director, or the president and CEO, those are the hard decisions you have to make, where you got to look out for the betterment of the overall good of the organization, even though I was the longest standing employee of Slamdance. And I will say that, to their credit, my boss, and I guess I would say mentor, Peter Baxter, is one of the people that, took it out of his time to help make sure I got this job here.
Wow.
I was invited back to produce the festival for this previous January. But I told him, because I have a family, that if something else comes along, I have to take it during the interim. And so he understood, and he said, and if not, you have a home here, at least starting on this date. And so that's, you got to respect that kind of loyalty to somebody who, when an organization supports you the way, I'll say Slamdance did, it makes you want to support it back the same way. And that's a great thing to feel and to learn and to be able to experience. That said, during that window, I started to look elsewhere.
And you were living still in Raleigh at this time?
Still in Raleigh at this time, and luckily, because the cost of living is not nearly what it would have been in LA.
North Carolina is not too, by comparison, not too bad.
And during that window of time, I worked some gigs. I helped, consulted, and worked for this festival at Penn State, Center Film Festival, their young festival, run by an amazing woman named Pearl Gluck. And then I also went and worked at Cucaloris in Wilmington as their development and operations manager for this year's past festival in the fall, which was a great experience. But all throughout the RiverRun process, as you said, it was like a nationwide search. The time that it took for that job process to be selected was a matter of I think 3 or 4 months. So it's
pretty fast.
I applied when I was out of work, and then between the time of applying and getting the position here at RiverRun, I've had 2 other jobs in that period of time. I worked 2 other festivals, but
freelance producing in a sense. Right?
I mean, and funny enough, one of our main programmers, Kate Lemberg, is also kind of in that world where her time with us is seasonal, and she works at many other festivals, including Sundance, throughout the year. There's a few, it's not a ton of people, but it's a very unique profession. There's not a lot of opportunity, and it's limited, right?
A small world. People tend to move from kind of stay within the festival circuit once they get in,
I mean, it's a hit or miss, because that's the thing I'll say. And what I've said this before, and I'll say it again, there is a lot of turnover in the festival world, because they're all nonprofits. Film is at a weird precipice, or maybe a breaking point or a changing point. And so what that means is that funding for a lot of these places, the access to opportunity is smaller, because there's less opportunity in industry. So some of those people are now transferring over those skills into other adjacent fields like festival work. And so it's a very unique world. But what I was saying is that RiverRun, not when I first interviewed, maybe it was the third one, I got to meet the interim directors, which were Mary Dawson, Tiffany, Mary and Tiffany. And when I found out that Mary had been with the organization for 18 years, Tiffany more or less 10 years with a little break, I was even more intrigued than I was to find out that there was a job that would work for me and my family and my future a couple hours from where I already lived. Not only that, it seemed like, there's an organization also that people care enough about to stay with for that amount of time. It speaks volumes without having to gloat about it, right? And I found that to be similar across the board, where I meet people all the time. It's like, I was a board member, but I reached my maximum time on the board, so I can't be anymore.
Can't be anymore.
Yeah, right. RiverRun's got 28-year history, still an Academy qualifying festival between doc shorts and animated shorts.
Yeah, I had 3 shorts from this past year. I know they got Oscar nominated.
They did.
Congratulations to those filmmakers.
I know. I mean, it's so impressive. I mean, it's such a great. Those are great categories that I wish more people paid attention to.
I thoroughly enjoyed the shorts.
They were great. Yeah.
Animated in particular. Just my co-host Will and I went to see one at UNCSA, and just that communal experience and just the different tones and animation styles, with each one. And we got to meet one of the filmmakers who I think that was her festival debut.
Very cool.
And she had done stop motion animation film, just did the entire thing herself. Took her 4 years, but just waterlogged, it was called. And just really, really cool experience. So it's exciting to see some of those films get recognized, and not that that's the ultimate test of whether it's a quality film, but it's still cool.
I mean, it's giving validity to like a short form storytelling that I wish more people paid attention to, because the budgets can be smaller and not always easier to make. Especially story-wise, or like sometimes it's much harder to make powerful story.
20-minute versus
everybody can make their 4-hour autobiography on video if they want.
Right.
But to make a 2-minute film that is powerful enough or says enough in 2 minutes to leave an impact on someone, that is a skill all into itself that even some of the greatest filmmakers can't do. And so I love that festivals still, their bread and butter are the short filmmakers that,
And there's sadly, even on streaming, there's still not a lot of outlets for their films to be seen.
I mean, that's the hard thing is when you see a short film, remember this, is that somebody spent a lot of money with no intention of getting it back. Because there isn't a lot of opportunity for distribution in short films. They've tried, like Netflix does a collection of shorts and various things, but really festivals are the place that those films can thrive and experience a life and hopefully build a career for the filmmaker, and the opportunity for them to be nominated for an Oscar. That's what really kind of helps push people over the edge.
Yeah.
It's fantastic. But we also at RiverRun get 2,000 submissions roughly every year, and our very small programming team, not 200 like Slamdance, goes through all of those and build out our program, which is like this year 178 films.
Yeah.
Mind you, that's still that is, I mean, from last year I remember that's still 20 plus more than Slamdance had the last year I was with the festival.
Yeah, just coordinating. I mean, I know from the production side, I'm sure you're in the thick of it right now. Just having to coordinate all the facilities, the places, the screenings, the timing.
Absolutely. I mean, that's the other thing is it's over a period of 9 days.
Yeah.
Where over the last few years, a lot of festivals have trimmed the amount of days because every day you do a festival is another day of money you're spending, right? Yeah. And so the fact that RiverRun's still 9 days, and I think, let me just think, Aperture Marketplace, UNCSA, Milton Roads, which is kind of two places.
Yeah, you've got the Reynolds Theater, and then you have this theater, the Haynes Brand.
Right, where we are today. So it's about 5.
Marketplace as well. And then,
and don't forget Carolina Theater.
Yeah, Carolina Theater this year.
So it's I'd say six venues throughout the 9-day period. Our schedules are pretty, what I like that we've done and I've seen them do for many years is lightly scheduled throughout that 9-day period so that things aren't on top of each other.
Yeah, and I know they have some that have 2 showings, so
right.
If you can't make it to one show, you make it to another. And then I think we had the virtual again this year, correct? Following
following the festival. Really cool. Yeah, they'll be virtual now. Make sure if you do go to get it that you check to see what films are available because it's pretty easy to tell. If it says virtual and you can buy a ticket to the virtual, then it's in the virtual. But if you don't see that, it's unfortunately not.
Yeah, I think, and then some specify, in the program, in-person screening only.
Yeah.
And then you have a few that are literally just one in-person screening. So
Yeah.
if you miss it, you miss it.
Exactly. And, I think also, for this year specifically, I came into the process a little later than I would have liked to, but I feel the work the team has already done leading up to my arrival, the work that we've done together since I have arrived, I'm just very proud of. We have 17 world premieres, which is a record here at RiverRun. A lot of those are North Carolina-based filmmakers, but even then, there's some that aren't. Whether it's this film, Human Shield, which is made by a filmmaker from San Francisco, who shot some of it here. It's based in 3 different places, but it's actually, I'm going to say this, but it's about abortion rights, but more about these escorts that escort people to and from, and it's really
through the racket of protesters, I guess, and things.
And it's a story more about how people showing up to help others, and that's what's really special about this film. But we have their world premiere at the festival, and then we also will have this Films of Class program for the first time. Films of Class, if you don't know, is a program we do where we, out of our 2,000 or however many submissions, we put a program together for students from the ages of kindergarten through high school. There's not always a high school program. This year there is. And then we contact schools in the area, invite them out to see these screenings for free. And they bus the kids in, they drop them off, and it's like during the school day. So it's like Monday through Friday in the mornings. Amazing program that's been going on for 17 years, started by an amazing woman who was a teacher, and the name's going to escape me right now, but I'm sure you can find out online. But point being, for the first time in 17 years, we have our first world premiere in that program.
Oh, nice.
Which is also a film. It's a documentary made by a group of kids and their teachers at the Interlochen School of the Arts.
Okay. Yeah.
Or Arts. I'm so used to UNCSA. Whatever it is, Interlochen Arts Academy, I think it is, in northern Michigan. And I'm just really excited because not only are we premiering it, but we also are, hopefully, there's about 12 students who will be attending from all over the world because it is a boarding school, so they have students from all over and some that have already graduated who all worked on the film. It's about regenerative agriculture, and then a bunch of teachers are coming as well. So having young people show up and participate in something they created is just great energy for the festival.
That is really cool.
World premiere will be at UNCSA, which also has kind of a program similar in their high school. So I'm excited about that. But we also, I think what's really cool about RiverRun for me, and I don't know if I've found the exact right way to say this, but I do feel like it has value that a lot of festivals and places don't necessarily ever tap into, is that RiverRun's 9 days. It's a long time. But during those 9 days, I guarantee you, no matter how old you are, what community you're from, if you're a tourist or you're from Winston-Salem, there's something in our program that should spark your interest. The way we program is so open, and it's crazy because it feels so focused in many ways on quality, I guess, is the main focus. But, there's a lot of festivals that don't have the kind of programming that we have, where you can have free screenings for kids, whether it's playing Fantasia at, I think, UNCSA, or a free screening of our shorts, Saturday morning cartoons at Caladium, a new partner we have.
Oh, nice.
That's going to be super fun. What we have done really well for many years is from the archives, which is our older films. We're celebrating the beauty of Technicolor this year, so we have From Russia with Love. We're also playing Raising Arizona because one of our honorees, our Master of Cinema Award recipient, Michael Miller, who's actually a professor at UNCSA for editing, who is famous for working with filmmakers like Martin Scorsese and the Coen brothers, a ton of, you name it, his laundry list of clients and films he's worked on is remarkable, and he's got some amazing stories that he'll be sharing with us. And he has a book coming out too, so it's kind of tied into this book that he wrote about editing and his experience. And he edited Raising Arizona, so we'll be playing that with the extended Q&A, and we have 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea in Technicolor. You know, the archive here is something at the UNCSA that most places don't have access to, and it's really special. And of course, we have our opening, closing night, and centerpiece films that are all remarkable. Opening night, we always do like a narrative and a doc, and our doc is a documentary by Sarah Dosa, who is a Academy Award winning, or not winning, nominated filmmaker who's been a RiverRun alumni multiple times over. She has a new doc called Time and Water about loss and things slipping away. It's focused on a writer in Iceland who's witnessing his grandfather die, and as well as the glaciers that he grew up near slowly melt away. And then the other opening night film, which is a narrative piece that I just absolutely adore, is about a kid growing up in Watts, trying to get to know his distant father who sees ghosts. And it's so beautiful, and the filmmaking is remarkable. The filmmaker, his name is Walter Thomas Hernandez, who's just remarkable, and the cast is just so captivating, and it's just a unique style of filmmaking that not many filmmakers can pull off. And I'm really excited for the audiences here to see it. And then, you know, we also have our centerpiece film, which happens in the middle of the week, which is like, I think, our most star-studded event. It's called Over Your Dead Body. It's a dark comedy about a couple that go to a cabin and secretly planning to kill each other.
I saw part of the trailer at the launch party.
Yeah.
And, I was like, ooh.
That
can be a hard thing to pull off too, like a dark comedy, dark humor.
Well, the cool thing about I think the reason it's getting pulled off so well, from my understanding, it's the cast is Jason Segel, Samara Weaving, who's in Ready or Not 2. She does that kind of like dark comedy, like humor really well, better than many actresses I can say in her generation. And Timothy Oliphant and Juliette Lewis. But it's directed by Jorma Taccone, who, if you know Lonely Island from Saturday Night Live.
Yes.
As a podcast, I can say things. It's not the launch. I can say, Dick in the Box and those short videos.
We do have an explicit rating. So
there you go.
Drop an F-bomb if you want to.
The team that brought you Dick in the Box at SNL and stuff. He directed the film.
Andy Samberg.
And I
forget the other two guys' names.
Jorma's one of the
Jorma,
yeah. And then the writers of the film are also SNL writers who actually had a movie that I think might be coming out this weekend.
Okay.
It's called Pizza Time. It premiered at South by with the youngest kid, youngest. The curly-haired kid from Stranger Things, Dustin or
Gavin,
or how do you say his name?
The actor's name, Gavin Mozzarella.
Whoever I'm talking about. He stars in it. I don't know the whole concept of the movie, but these guys are making a lot of things right now, and they're supposed to be attending with us, so we'll hopefully have a conversation.
Yeah.
Ask them about the film afterwards. But it's a fun movie. I've worked in a lot of festivals, and there's usually very specific vibe that they're each going for, style of film. And even Slamdance, even though the programming is also different, it is also, there's like kind of a through line, it feels like. And so it's exciting to be at a festival that can cater to so many different audiences.
That is one thing I really enjoyed about last year. I got to see a variety of films. Like at Nerdhat, we've kind of morphed into that. We started out more of like, comic book feature movie, like Batman and then sci-fi, Star Trek. But we, over time, have branched out more, and I like to think of us now as more like equal opportunity nerds. Who says it has to be sci-fi or fantasy? Why can it not be the latest Broadway show you saw, maybe in person? If you're nerding out about that, you're excited about that, or the latest independent film that's just a family drama that takes place in one house, like Battersea was last year at RiverRun. So to me, like, and honestly, me personally, I found maybe some of it's just getting older, and I have kids, and like I found the very intimate personal dramas to be more engaging and exciting to me now, and when I see them done well, the writing obviously being at the core of that, but then obviously the acting and the directing pulling that off, and to me that's almost more exciting than the latest Marvel or DC film, with some exceptions. Like I love Matt Reeves' The Batman. That was just amazing.
Sure.
I mean, as a Batman fan, but
yeah.
So I did love seeing the variety there. We even had, I think, a sci-fi comedy last year at RiverRun, which I got a chance to see. And that was fun too, like a British style humor sci-fi comedy.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's the thing, and especially now more than ever, it's so important that I want to be optimistic and believe and feel that people are tired, and they're tired of sitting at home. They're tired of being in front of screens.
Right.
At least that's the way I feel. I feel like it's a commonly talked about sentiment. Mm-hmm. With that said, one thing I miss it, and I know many others who I've spoken to miss it, and I've heard people in the industry talk about it. It's like there is nothing like experiencing a film amongst a crowd of people.
Yeah.
There is really nothing like it. It can change the trajectory of a film and how people see it. And even if you're even in the audience, like a member, you're going to feel differently about a film you watched on your couch while your wife makes dinner or whatever, as you would sitting in a crowd of a sold-out screening, same movie, of people who are engaged and excited to see it. And I think the industry's catching up to understand that, because they're realizing some of the damage that's been done. Yeah. And not everybody's going to come to play, because there's Netflix now. So
yeah, and if you got, I mean, the companies that own, or the corporations that own the properties, if they're at the end of the day more interested in profit than they are. I mean, I know at the end of the day, there does have to be a balance. Like, you have to have films that do make enough of a profit, so then you have the revenue that you can channel into maybe the smaller films, or the more art house, or for lack of a better term. Like, so I know there's a balance there, even with the actors, that they have to do one of these big movies so that then they can afford to, like, maybe waive their salary so that a small project can get made. So I understand the tension there, and obviously there's some big movies that hit on all cylinders of, like, they have the character and the story, and in addition to having the big special effects. But yeah, I do love just the intimacy of enjoying a passion project, like, with a group of people, and just and then maybe getting to meet the person who was involved in making it afterwards. That's just really cool.
I mean, I'll tell you, like, I think you're hitting it spot on, because I just feel like, not just, I hear you talking about, like, family drama or something like that, but also you think about, and this is what I would love to argue with some industry people, it's just like, you think about movies like There's Something About Mary, or Dumb and Dumber, and all these movies that went on to make hundreds of millions of dollars. And those movies probably wouldn't have had the same trajectory or influence on our culture, or water cooler moment type talk about, if they went straight to streaming on Netflix.
Yeah.
Don't get me wrong, Netflix also is, it's that you're torn, because Netflix is also spending money on filmmakers who are making important things, where, for instance, the Russo brothers did something with Netflix. They're alumni from Slamdance. That's where they started.
Oh, nice.
Went on to make all the Marvel Avengers movies, and now they're making a new set. But, at Slamdance, they had Agbo Fellowship, which is their company, and they gave money, and they mentor young filmmakers, independent filmmakers. They are active in that scene, and so it's like, it is cool. That thing where that money can help, like you said, pay for things. But we've trained audiences to not experience smaller storytelling together.
Yeah, and that's something I've had honestly, I think RiverRun really ignited that interest in me, like going last year, and I found a kind of movie of the month club. Like we meet once a month at Aperture, where we go and see a film together, and then we talk about it afterwards. And I really love that. Honestly, in a lot of ways, I love it more than doing this podcast, even though we're reviewing films. It's just like that communal experience, and it's just with those people, and just the organic nature of that, and the conversations that come out of it has just been really, really fun. And it's cool getting to support Aperture while we do it as well, and what they're doing. Yeah, I find myself gravitating more towards that now, wanting the in-person experience more often with a larger group. Doesn't have to be a huge group, but just like as opposed to just watching it on my phone or watching it on my TV at home.
Yeah, because also, like, even let's just give an example of my own personal life. Honestly, I understand, like, people's lives are busy, packed, life's hard. Sometimes your kids just won't let you do what you want to do. And so...
or you got to stay up late.
Exactly.
Or you don't get enough sleep.
Yeah, and so I understand the draw to the convenience of home viewing. Yeah. But I'll even say this, it's like even staying home and just watching something with my wife is a very different experience than if we actually make it to a theater. Mm-hmm. Usually the chances are post-theater, walk to the car, drive home from the theater, maybe we get food afterwards. Mm-hmm. We're having conversation. Like, we're talking about what we just felt emotionally and experienced in the theater. And that's way more satisfying and enjoyable, better for our longevity and health of our relationship, and or just better to, like, I still see value going to a bad movie that I talked about for 3 hours because it was so bad with my wife.
Right.
And because we had a blast talking about it. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And so there's value in that. But if it's just a bad movie that I streamed by myself at 4 a.m. because my kids aren't awake and my wife's asleep and nobody will watch it with me, I feel like I wasted my time.
Yeah, right?
But...
Yeah, but then you have the communal experience afterwards. I know there's an entire podcast dedicated to like how did this get made? I think it's probably the most popular. It's like
that's the best.
And they have the live shows that they do, and it's that communal experience of like, it's like, wow, this is so bad. Like, why was this so bad? What do we like about it? What do we just that back and forth? And they managed to still find something redeemable about a lot of them. Not all of them, but but a lot of the films,
Well, I also sorry, I mean, gotcha.
But anyway, yeah.
I think it's so. Something that people don't say a lot. I don't know if I've heard this, but it's just what I was just thinking about off the cuff. The truth of the matter is that when we see things in a group, whether it's a movie or we listen to things in a group, a movie, I think you feel it more. You can walk away from that theater feeling as though we're all a lot more similar than we realize. Mm-hmm. Because the chances are high and likely that everyone's going to laugh at the same moments, cry at the same moments, get angry at the same moments, sit at the edge of their seat at the same moments. And so I think our world, post-COVID especially, but in general, is just lacking these communal experiences where we see each other and our similarities first. Mm. And that I love about movies. And especially here in Winston-Salem, I'm beginning to appreciate that more because there is this big community here of locals that are active moviegoers and active arts participants. And I know that not all of us share the same, say, political viewpoints or social opinions or whatever it is, religion, this, that, or the other. Mm-hmm. But we all can agree that we love this art form. Yeah. And I'm getting to see people first in that way than what maybe they say in a private conversation and a long day with their significant other, or whatever their internet presence is. And so I just think there's so much value society can have, especially young people. But it's like as a kid, I think you learn empathy at the movies somewhat. You learn to understand that, like, oh, I'm feeling sad for a person.
Yeah.
Why am I processing that emotion and that feeling for like something that's not happening to you on screen? And you're having feelings about it. Tells you a lot about how we exist and interact in the world.
Yeah.
You know?
I mean, even the entire act of, I know we do anthropomorphize them to an extent, but like having animal characters and just imagining ourselves as a different species and what it might be like for that species to experience humans,
Right.
as well.
Oh my gosh, 100%.
I mean, Bambi probably one of the earliest examples of
Yeah.
that. Granted, most of the human side of it was negative, just getting shot by a hunter, but like, but still, it's just like, what would that be like to be hunted by a human? It's like,
Right.
what does that even?
Yeah, and I mean, I think that also brings it. Like, I don't even saw this, but I'm sure we're wrapping up here. But
Yeah,
we're going way long, and I could
okay.
talk. I'm a talker. But the new disability program that I started this year. Mind you, RiverRun did a program last year, so I don't want it to seem like I came here and said, let's do disability programming. No, RiverRun was already doing work towards this, but it's not a big program, but it's 3 features and 3 shorts.
Mm-hmm.
Some locally made from Wake Forest graduate, produced by Peter Gilbert and Chris Webber, the NBA star. The program's called Limitless. We have 2 special screenings as part of that. One is Under the Lights, which is written and directed by a filmmaker with epilepsy. It's about his story and how he suffered from having seizures and then still went to prom and knowing that he would have a seizure. And cast is great, like Lake Bell and Mark Duplass, who was a part of it, and others. That work is similar to like what I did with Unstoppable, with that support of the founders of Unstoppable, my organization, and all the amazing filmmakers. Like I get to here continue my work in advocacy for the disabled community, but like that's why big part of why we do that program is so that the audience can, because the disabled community on a daily basis experiences not being looked at as humans, right? I've had my brushes with it. I was in a wheelchair till I was 5. I was in a halo because I broke my neck when I was 18. And it's when you have in those scenarios, like you learn how people look at people like that,
or don't look,
or see through you or past you, like you don't exist. Aside from all the reasons this world is not designed for everyone, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, it's the same thing. It's like we go to the movies to deal with and hopefully learn how to be better. How to be better. I do believe that all humans, somewhere inside them, want to be better all the time. Now, some aren't very good at it. And some push that emotion to the back of the line. But I do believe inherently we want to be. And movies, I feel like, play to that emotion or that sense.
Yeah, and I feel like one of the things that can help with the most is overcoming that fear of the other. Like if you can see the humanity in someone who grew up very different than yourself. One of the films we reviewed this past year, I read the graphic novel first, and then we covered the film, but I know I'm a little behind on it, but it was Persepolis. And I was amazed at just how many parallels I saw. Like I grew up in a very conservative religious environment, and just seeing the parallels in her story, Marjane Satrapi's story, because obviously just sharing it very personally and autobiographically, I was like, I could relate to so much of, even though she's a woman in a different country, far, far away, very different religion, but there's the humanity and just some of the similar internal struggles, even dealing with your religion or your relationship to spirituality and seeing the culture change drastically around you and watching that happen. There's a power in that of like, oh, we're a lot alike, actually, even though you're a woman from the other side of the world. We've had similar experiences. That
I couldn't agree more. It's so, I mean, the same goes with music. That's the beauty of what art can do for us is, and if you're lucky enough to be able to take a pause the moment you're feeling something and like look at what that feeling is, tell you that's the best. Like they're all tools to our journeys and helping figure our own selves out. As none of us have our own selves. I know myself, like I don't know. I know
Still figuring it out.
But yeah, and I think for me, and I'll try and I think this is probably a good note to end on, because I've explained a lot of my work, is I haven't really had the opportunity to put on a festival. I mean, when I was younger, I did some shows and stuff but like being able to create something or help shape something for a community that myself and my family and my children are a part of was probably the most exciting thing for me when taking the position here, is knowing that I could be an active participant here in Winston-Salem, and maybe the choices I make at RiverRun and the things I can do for the organization and outside of it might make an impact on the community here in a way that, in Los Angeles, maybe it wouldn't because it's 25 million people. Yeah. But here, maybe I could. And I think it's exciting in a world where I think a lot of times, because things are so complicated or troubling or whatever, many of us, I think, feel helpless and don't know what to do. Yeah. And so I'm excited to be a part of a community that just talking to people and as I've met people, like everyone here is so active and in their lives and doing things for the community and those around them. It's so awesome, and I'm just thrilled to be accepted into it and to have this opportunity to be a part of it. So,
well, Michael, thank you for joining us
on
the podcast. I do have one final question that I plan to ask our guests this year. It's kind of our theme for the season. Is what's in your nerd hat? Meaning, maybe it's a TV show or a movie, just something recently that you're just really excited about on kind of a more personal level. Obviously, RiverRun.
Yeah. No, of course, I get it.
There's something you saw or are currently enjoying.
Yeah, I'm currently enjoying. Okay, so I guess, I kind of delved into it slightly. I guess I am a Game of Thrones nerd, but I'm going to go one step deeper just because everybody's Game of Thrones.
Right, it's so popular, yeah.
And there is a filmmaker who made the show that's on HBO, DTF St. Louis.
Oh, okay, yeah, I've seen the advertisements.
Okay, it's got Jason Bateman and what's his name from Stranger Things?
I know who you're talking about.
Yeah. Anyways, I'm
drawing a blank too right now.
Yeah. The show's amazing. We're watching it every week. It's so funny. But the creator of that show also created a show called Patriot. His name is on the tip of my tongue. Stephen Conrad, I believe is his name, the writer-director. He made a show on Amazon a few years ago called Patriot that had 2 seasons. It's about a spy who basically smokes too much weed all the time and records folk songs and is accidentally kind of spilling the tea on like what he does on his missions in these songs. And that's a very small, that's just kind of your way into it. But it's, in my opinion, I think it could be maybe my favorite show I've ever seen on television.
Oh, wow.
It's so funny and dark and dry. And this filmmaker has a very unique style of dialogue. If you like, I don't know, say if you like Wes Anderson, you'd like this, but like the Wes Anderson and Coen brothers they have very unique styles of the way they write dialogue, and Quentin Tarantino even. This guy does too. I just think he's very underrated. And yeah, I'm just so excited as a show, and it's on HBO and people are watching it, but I'm obsessed with him, and I've watched Patriot like 3 times. It's only 2 seasons, easy to watch.
Yeah.
The dad from That 70s Show's on it, and he's perfect.
Yeah.
Has probably some of the most quotable lines. If you're like a Big Lebowski, Fargo fan, or just those weird quips like that you can pull from, it's well worth a watch. And it's 2 seasons. It's perfection. And after last night's, or whatever it was, this week's DTF St. Louis, I think that the show is also going to be that way.
Nice. I've been wanting to check that out. Yeah. The trailer really grabbed me. It's like the mystery element, but then the dark comedy too. And David Harbour, that's his name.
David Harbour, right?
I mean, Stranger Things, like he definitely brings some humor into that.
Yeah.
We did Hellboy as well, which is
Yeah,
kind of a dark
exactly.
comedy. So
He did,
Yeah.
he's recently of Lily Allen fame. No,
yeah.
poor guy. I mean, I don't know about poor guy. Either way, like, say what you will about his personal life, his performance in this show is amazing and really enjoyable to watch. I will say, thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, absolutely.
I just want to make sure also that people know RiverRun this year is on the 17th. We go to the 25th. We're all around Winston-Salem. We already said all the venues, but you can get tickets online at our website, riverrunfilm.com. And we do have a box office manager who's on staff 5 days a week in the office. Juana, she's amazing. So you can call. Our phone number's on their website. If you're not a computer person or whatever, she can walk you through tickets, help you buy them. Our office is also open for you to come in and buy tickets. We're right downtown off of 4th and Main. We're excited for this year's festival, and our door is always open to anyone in the community. So please come join us.
Yeah, and for you Nerdhatters that are listening outside of this area, there'll also be the virtual screenings that will be accessible, I think, the week following the in-person festival, correct?
Yes. Those screenings are available to purchase now. So you can just click on our website and buy a screening. It's like video on demand. So
yeah, I caught a couple last year that I didn't have a chance to see in person. I think one of the animated shorts programs. I watched it with some of them with my kids. And yeah, so it works really well, and yeah, that too. So
I would also implore everyone to follow our sign up for our mailing list and at least follow us on social media, because there's a lot of things that maybe didn't make into the program you've read or are still in the works that will be happening during the festival.
I think that's
so
at RiverRun Film, correct?
Yeah, at riverrunfilm.com.
At RiverRun Film, I believe, is the Instagram handle, if I'm not mistaken.
I believe so.
it is,
Yeah.
RiverRun Film.
If not, you can correct it in post.
We'll put links in the show notes too.
But it's so there'll be more. There's some surprises, more things that we're working on. I like to just keep trying to do more right up until the last minute if I can.
Right.
Yeah, I don't ever stop working.
I hear that.
Yeah. Anyways,
all right. Well, thank you so much.
Thank you so much, man.
Absolutely.
Pleasure.
The Nerdhat podcast was produced in partnership with Nerdhat Productions, which is owned by me, Richard Best. So it's produced by me. Wait, what is this music? Hold on just a second. Let me see if I can find my normal music. There we go. Okay, so the Nerdhat podcast is produced by Nerdhat Productions. I want to give a big thank you to my co-hosts, Will Boyer and Laura Morales. They have been such a big part of the success of this podcast. It would not be possible without them. I mean that sincerely. I would have quit a long damn time ago. Thanks also to all of our many collaborators and guests over the years, and most recently Elijah Miller for giving us a new logo. While I was involved in creating it, I did not do the artwork. He did it, and it was amazing. So, the Nerdhat podcast was recorded by me, Richard Best, and edited by me, Richard Best, with a little bit of assistance from Riverside.fm. I appreciate that program. It has been very helpful for virtual recordings, like on snow days, things like that. You name it. Anyway, I digress. Until next time, nerds, nerdhatters, nerdhettes, assorted nerd persons, live long and prosper.